Hello, I'm Bobby Savoie, AARP Louisiana State President. I'm also the Volunteer Fraud Watch Network lead for the Louisiana State Office. Today I'm joined by Detective Jeff Beatty with the Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office Financial Crimes Division. Thank you, Detective Beatty, for joining me today.
No problem. Glad to be here.
Great. So like you know, we're in the midst of this pandemic and a continuing hurricane season, and the fraudsters are using headlines as opportunities to steal money or personal information. And no one is immune. So to get us started, Detective Beatty, what are some of the most frequent scams that you're seeing right now?
Well, dealing with the coronavirus pandemic that's been going on, we've been seeing a whole lot of identity theft that's been happening statewide, not only our state, but across the country. Fraudsters are stealing people's personal identifying information, their name, date of birth, social. They would apply for unemployment and start getting those funds from the unemployment office, and then eventually the funds are working their way overseas for the most part. So.
What we hear is identity theft is a big deal all across the country, and we're not immune in Livingston Parish or in Louisiana. So, do you have any thoughts or advice as to how we can best protect our identity? I know there's a lot of things that we can do, and I'm sure in your day to day, when folks call with issues, there's suggestions and advice that you give them as well.
Sure. As far as identity theft, we always recommend checking your bank accounts daily. When for my bank, I have an online app, and every morning I check it, and usually every night before I go to bed, I check it to see if my account's been hacked or any unauthorized charges I didn't make. I can go ahead and get that resolved with the bank, and then move forward with filing a report with law enforcement if need be. You can also sign up just for some credit monitoring services. I file my taxes, do TurboTax every year, and actually I get an update anytime anything has to do with any of my credit score or anything like that, so I can recognize any accounts that's been opened in my name or anything like that.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we tell folks as well. Monitor your credit and monitor your accounts, your checking accounts, your bank statements, your credit card bills. And the easiest way to do that really is online. But, some of our older adults are a little hesitant and skeptical to use online services. But if they're protected with appropriate antivirus, generally speaking, they're okay. So if we talk about a financial crime, what might be some of the things that we should be looking out for?
Right now, affecting on a daily basis, we have scams out the box, and scams seems like that's a daily occurrence and nationwide. It affects everybody, no matter the age. People's always been trying to scam you. I know my phone will ring all day long with numbers I don't recognize, and probably 90% of those numbers I don't know are some type of scam that's happening. So just always, I don't even answer those phone calls. I let the people leave me a message, and then I determine if I'm going to call that person back or if it's a legit person or a robocall or whatever. So you always got to just be careful about giving out any information like that. I know here recently we had a scam where a lady's phone number was spoofed. A fraudster was able to use that lady's phone number, call a relative, and they did a scare tactic on her. So the person pretended to be a kidnapper, and that he's going to do harm to this lady if they didn't send her X amount of dollars. Being that the phone call came from the lady's phone number, she went to the gas station, got some gift cards, and gave the numbers off the back and gave the fraudster $900 right then and there before she verified if in fact her relative was in any harm. So that was just this week that we had that. But on a daily basis, we have scams reported to our office.
That is unfortunate, and we do hear about those kinds of scams where relatives called an aunt, an uncle, a parent, a grandparent, and pretend to be somebody that they're not. And I guess it's easier to look back on the scam after it's happened rather than at the time, because you just get excited. You hate to think that a relative is in trouble in the hospital, in jail, and needs help. And you certainly, I mean, we have generally good hearts, and we want to help folks, and especially our own relatives. So talking about the coronavirus scams, what we see is they're spreading nearly as fast as the virus. And the Federal Trade Commission released a report as of September 27th. They had received more than 210,000 consumer complaints related to COVID-19 and stimulus payments. And that's just since, February, March, that time frame. So 2/3 of those complaints involved fraud or identity theft. And what they're also reporting is that those victims lost almost $150 million. A big number. The median loss is $300, and $300 could be the difference between someone paying their utility bill or buying their medication or paying a house note. So to some folks, that's a lot of money. So any thoughts or recommendations how we can protect ourselves against those kinds of scams, and particularly COVID-19 stimulus payments and those kinds of issues?
Well, as far as like stimulus payments and everything like that, I mean, if you was going to get one and you didn't receive it as soon as you didn't get it in a timely manner, you should be contacting the IRS or finding out what's going on with that. You can log on the IRS website, and they got links specifically for that. You can type in your social and you can check and get an update on your stimulus check. As far as like the unemployment, people that's having to file unemployment, whenever you file, they're going to contact you, and they're going to get that ball rolling real quick with you. However, if you didn't file for unemployment, somebody did use your identity, really there's no way to find out if that's happening, because you normally, unemployment office will send out a letter to your former employer and verify that you no longer work there or that you did work there previously. So that's about the only way you're going to find out that your name was used by that. So.
Yeah, and I guess in some cases it's difficult, and we certainly don't know until after the fact. And I guess one of the things that we just got to continue to do is to just be vigilant and watch all of our accounts, and check websites, IRS, unemployment agencies, especially if we're employed or unemployed.
Right.
So, like we know about our state's population, it's aging. Financial crimes against older people continue to be a growing concern, and what we know is that 37% of fraud complaints filed with the Federal Trade Commission in 2015. Now it's a little bit dated, but I'm sure the numbers are probably similar. Those complaints came from consumers that were age 60 and older. And those are our members, AARP members, and the people that we advocate for. And so I know I asked you a little about financial crimes a little bit earlier, but again, if you could tell us what does a financial crime look like? And I guess particularly against older adults.
Right. Whether it be older adults or younger adults, I mean, financial crimes is just a crime committed on your property or identity that's usually under the control of a financial institution. Bank accounts, social security accounts, your retirement accounts, that kind of nature. So as far as like the elderly people, I think more of the scams are really attacking the elderly people or relatives maybe taking advantage of them, caregivers. So that's the type of crimes that we're working. I know you quoted some stats from 2015. Before I got in this meeting, I looked up the stats for 2019, which is pretty mind-blowing right there. It says that in 2019, 1 out of every 4 adults was a victim of a financial crime. Only 15% of the victims actually reported the financial crime. So the data that we have in law enforcement is very low compared to what's actually happening out there. Of the ones who reported, there was an estimated $3.5 billion in just 1 year that people lost in financial crime. So Financial crime is definitely an issue. It's continuing to grow. The criminals who do these type of crimes are getting more and more sophisticated. So we're doing everything we can to prevent and stop the financial crimes for sure.
So when you speak to victims, I'm sure at some point they call in and report, or a relative reports it for them. What I mean, can you tell? Do they say, how it was that they were victimized, or why they didn't report the crime?
Well, a lot of times they just didn't catch the crime in time. Like they might not, like me and you, we might check our online accounts on a daily basis, where as an elderly person that doesn't have internet access or just doesn't use apps like that, they might not see it for a month, and then they might not even notice it until their bank calls them, and it's been 3 months. And sometimes they're embarrassed when they fall victim to that. So
I think that's one of the things that we hear as well, is, they embarrassed to let people know that they may have been taken advantage of,
Right.
So is there anything specific to a financial crime that people can do to protect themselves, or is it, sort of the same thing with identity theft and other kinds of frauds?
Just ways to prevent it. Just monitor
Right.
your stuff. I mean, if you're an elderly person and you have a trusted relative, a son, daughter, that has access, that can help you out, and you really trust them, they can help monitor your bank accounts, your statements, keep you on track. And a lot of these banks, all these local banks, I work with them on a daily basis, and the people that works at the banks around here are great people to work for. You can go in there anytime and get updates on your accounts. They will help you every way they can. A lot of times if they notice something suspicious, they'll reach out to you, contact you, and then they get everything ready for me. They hand deliver everything to me, or call me in, and I can come pick it up, and we can get right on the case. But they're very good about helping the elderly people and any customer.
I guess that's one good thing about living in Livingston Parish. Even though it's part of a larger metropolitan area, it still has that small town feel that you can still, your bankers know who you are, and they probably in a better position to see funny business going on than maybe even a close relative sometimes.
Exactly. Yeah, they're on top of it for sure. So I mean, they help me out every day in all my cases that I work with.
So if someone thinks that they've been a victim of a financial crime specifically, and or a relative might see someone who thinks that their loved ones being taken advantage of, is there anything particular that they should do?
Well, first of all, you need to stop the financial crime. If it's the best way to do that is immediately report to your financial institution, the bank. That way they can go ahead and take the steps to freeze the account. That way you don't lose any more of your money. Then the second step would be report it to law enforcement. That way we can identify the person responsible for the financial crime and bring them to justice for sure.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, some of these folks, not necessarily limited to seniors, but some who may have difficulties, either mentally or they might be physically challenged, and they might turn over control of their finances to someone. That may be harder for them to realize that there's crimes going on until it might be too late. And I don't know, I mean, not being in law enforcement, we can tell folks these are things that you should do, but if they're not in a position to do the thing, then I guess that makes it a little bit more difficult, to maybe to either report it or stop it, or, do something else to try to stop that kind of crime.
Right. It may take longer to realize that you're a victim of a crime whenever it's in those circumstances. And but normally, I mean, it's all going to come to light. With financial crimes, there's always a record of where the money went and how it got there. So I know the state of Louisiana has Elderly Protective Services. They help us out with a lot of cases in those type of cases where it's a caregiver or relatives that's stealing from the elderly.
Yeah. What a shame to to steal from the elderly, who a lot of times are not able to afford it.
Right, they're
So,
on fixed income, work
so
hard for life. So.
yeah, it looks like, is there, are there any other crimes in your experience, at least, here in Livingston Parish, and with those, some of your, cohorts around the country, around the state and around the country as well, that crimes that you'd like to point out that maybe we haven't covered during our conversation?
Well, the main thing is just the scams are always evolving, and these people that commit scams, they put a lot of pressure on their victims, where they got to act fast, they got to act now. It might be you looking to buy a new truck and you find a good deal online, for a truck that should cost way more, but then they're putting this pressure on you and saying that you got to act now. We'll get shipped to you and everything like that. So if you can't actually go lay hands on it and look at it, you shouldn't buy it. And anytime you're making like a large purchase like that online, you should always consult with somebody just to make sure it's legit. Because these scammers, they can pretend to be eBay, they can pretend to be anybody, and they get you with these gift cards. And once you give them the numbers, those funds they're gone. 90% of the time they're overseas, and there's not a whole lot we can do whenever it's outside U.S. jurisdiction.
Yeah, we tell our members all the time, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
That's right.
And just do your research. Make sure
You research,
make sure it is what it is, and that you know who you're dealing with.
Yep.
And the other big thing that robocalls is such a big deal. And the telecommunications companies, they have the ability to be able to restrict some of those calls, and for whatever reason, they either choose not to do so, or they don't put as much focus on limiting robocalls. But again, we tell our members, if the number doesn't look familiar, don't answer it. And I think you said it earlier.
I did, yeah.
If it's important, you don't recognize the number, they'll leave a message, and then you decide whether or not to call back.
Exactly. And then we see a lot of the IRS type scams, where somebody calls up and pretends they're with the IRS, say that you got a warrant for your arrest, you have to act on it now. A lot of times they won't even let you hang up the phone with them. The IRS or no government official is going to act like that. So just hang up, call the sheriff's office. We can verify stuff for you, but call somebody. We're here all the time. You can always get in touch with a deputy for advice.
IRS, Social Security, utility companies, walk-in contractors. A lot of those scams have been around a long time, and now they're morphing into various other kinds of still the same but different, and trying to get folks to do that, to make a decision in a hurry that ends up costing them in the end.
Absolutely. Yep.
So look, Detective Beatty, I think our conversation is coming to an end.
Okay.
We thank you for talking with us. You share some great information that we think is going to be helpful to our members, seniors, the age 50 plus. And I guess in closing, I just ask any final comments that you'd like to share, something that maybe we haven't covered, or something you'd like to warn the public about, so to speak.
Well, the same thing you said a while ago. If it sounds too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true. So if you ever have any questions before you send money or give away money, you can always call. You can call me up Monday through Friday, 8 to 4. You can call the sheriff's office 24/7 year round. Get advice before you make a decision. If you don't have a trusted relative or somebody that you can get advice from, you can always call us up. We're here all the time, ready to help.
Well, that's great advice, and it's good for our viewers to know that they can make that phone call and speak to someone who has experience and will lend an ear.
That's right.
So, Detective Beatty, on behalf of AARP Louisiana, I want to thank you, and then Sheriff Jason Ord as well, for allowing you to take the time out of your schedule to join me today. We've talked about a lot of information that's important to our members in the age 50 plus. I know this information, these tips and comments will be helpful to our viewers. And to our viewers, the single best thing that you can do to protect yourself is to remain vigilant, do your homework, and keep your guard up. We want you to be a fraud fighter. If you can spot a scam, you can stop a scam. And as Detective Beatty said, report scams to local law enforcement. For help from AARP, you can call our toll-free number at 1-877-908-3360 or visit the AARP Fraud Watch Network at www.aarp.org/fraudwatchnetwork. You can also text FWN to 50757 to receive bi-weekly alerts from the Fraud Watch Network. So remember, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay strong, Louisiana. On behalf of AARP Louisiana and the Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office, thank you for joining us today, and goodbye until next time.